I want to review with you last week. I told you about meeting Mac. I was out walking with my dog Maxie, and I came across Maxie's old friend Mac, and Lucas drew me a picture of this. Where is he? Right there. There's your picture. And so there's me walking with Maxie. We came across Mac. Mac was, of course, a greyhound, as I told you last week, a greyhound who was retired, no longer racing in the big track in Daytona, no longer chasing mechanical rabbits. And I was talking with Mac, as I told you last week, to just ask him, well, what happened? Did you get hurt? And Mac said, no. And I said, well, did you, no good? He said, no, I won lots of money. And I said, well, did you get tired of the life? He says, no, not at all. And I said, well, what happened? And Mac, remember, he told me he quit. He quit racing. I asked Mac, why did you quit racing? And Mac told me, he found out he was running, and what he was chasing was not even real. It's a mechanical rabbit, not even real. And so Mac quit. And I told you that story to raise a question last week. What are you running after? What are you chasing? What on earth are you here for? Not trying to answer that on all one blow, but what on earth are you here for? What are you chasing? Because the reading we heard last week and this week as well tells us about Jesus. Jesus standing up in the synagogue and telling people what he was here for. That the Lord was here, he was sent. Not his own idea, but he was sent to proclaim good news to the poor. And liberty to captives, and let the oppressed go free, recover the sight of the blind. He came to make God's promises good. To make good on God's promises. To do the will of God, and all the things God had promised to the prophets, to make them happen. That's why he was sent. That's what Jesus was on earth here for. We heard in the first reading how the prophet Jeremiah was sent. He was sent to proclaim God's justice. Even though people didn't want to hear it, he was sent to proclaim God's justice. That's what on earth he was here for. And I left you just thinking, what on earth are you here for? To hear those words and to turn to God and to keep asking that question. What on earth are you here for? Besides the obvious, to keep your kids alive until they're 18 years old and they're on their own. That's a very good purpose. But what on earth God has put you here for? Well, after Mass last weekend, someone came up to me and said, Father, I know what I'm here for. And I said, oh, great. What on earth are you here for? And he said, well, I'm here to love and to be loved. To love and be loved. And it's a great answer. It's a great answer. To love and be loved. Now, when we talk about love, though, there's lots of things we think about. So let me give you some ideas about that. Here you go. Hold that, David. This is from a booklet. And the author asked teens to write about their experiences with dating and relationships. We'd been friends for a couple of years before we actually started going out. He was always popular at school. I liked him for so long that when we actually did start going out, it was like a dream come true. I was in love for the first time in my life, and it felt great. Just hearing his voice or seeing his smile would make me forget everything else. Falling in love with him made me fall in love with life. Teresa, 15. Isn't that beautiful? Isn't that magic? Yeah, it's good. There's more. I've never asked a girl out for fear of being rejected. There have been many girls that I loved, or at least thought I did, but I could never get the nerve to ask them out on a date. I even practice what to say in front of a mirror, but when the time comes, I always shy away. I feel it's impossible. I'm just too scared that she'll say no, and that everyone would find out and I'd be very embarrassed. Brad, 16. I've always had a strong belief in God ever since I was a little girl, but I feel that God has been unfair to me. Every day I wish for happiness and for someone to fall in love with me. I pray to God for help and guidance all the time, but it doesn't seem like he doesn't hear. I have friends, guy friends, and that is all. Everyone is always telling me how pretty I am. Well, if I am so pretty, why don't I ever have a date? Sharon, 16. I think Sharon and Brad should get together. Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. Okay. Remember those little scary times, when you remember those times when you were going through those dating relationships? It's not easy. It's scary. And if you remember sitting here a little scared about it, think what your kids are thinking now. They're terrified. They're terrified. It's very, very difficult. The good news is you have a little wisdom, a little experience, good and bad, and you can help them in great ways so that they can truly love and be loved. As a parish, we're doing this program. They did it last week, and they'll do it again next week, where they talk about these things. To the parents, we had about 100 parents here last week, talking to the parents and giving them tools so they can talk with their kids, whether they're in first grade or 12th grade, to give them some ways to have that conversation with their kids. And then the kids in their classrooms are getting age-appropriate, and it's about talking about love, relationships, infatuation, and of course, the abuse of all that, the exploitation that can be so easy and evil. So we want to have those conversations so that your kids hear it not from the streets or from TV, but they hear it from you, the person who loves them most, and want to help you do those things. You have great power to help them, to know what it means to love and be loved, to help them know what that really, really means. Good place to help to do that always is the Bible. The Bible helps you to know what it means to love and be loved. The reading we heard from St. Paul's letter to the Corinthians is a very familiar one. Love is patient, love is kind, love is never jealous. How many of you all been to a wedding before? How many have heard it before? All of you? That's a very popular reading at weddings. But let's try something different. In place of the word love, say the word I. So for example, love is patient, you say, I am patient. So let's try this. Love is patient.
I am patient.
Love is kind.
I am kind.
Love is not jealous.
I am not jealous.
Love does not brood.
I do not brood.
Was it true? Are you always patient, always kind, never jealous, never brooding? No. Sometimes we do not love. And what worse, I think that St. Paul is setting the bar too low. Because a person who is always patient, always kind, never jealous, never brooding, it's a boring person, It's not the kind of person you're going to invite to your Super Bowl party tonight. You're like, oh, let's call up, Bill. He's patient and kind and never jealous and never brooding. No, it's a boring person. That's not alive. That's just kind of getting by. Patient, kind, never jealous. No, St. Paul set the bar too low. Edwina Gately, she's a missionary to prostitutes in Chicago. She says that in heaven, when we get to heaven, there's going to be not just a gate with puffy clouds and angels and harps and wings and an angel with a book saying, okay, were you always patient, kind, never jealous? Okay, come on in. She says, no way. When you get to the gates of heaven, there's going to be a big angel there with tattoos on the arm. And this guy's going to look kind of rough, It's going to ask you, and he's going to have a thermometer. The old kind of thermometer, not the kind you wipe in your head, but a thermometer like the mercury thermometer that you stick under your tongue or your armpit or in a worse place. Okay. And it says to you, how hot did you burn for God's people? Did you have passion for God's people? When you fought with one another, when you argued about immigration reform, when you argued about abortion, you can still hold hands, showing you still love them, no matter what. What icy indifferences did you thaw with your passion? Or do you just sit back and say, oh, none of my business? How much did you burn for my people? That's the kind of love we're called to live up to. Because that's the kind of love that God has for you. And that's the kind of love we want you to tell your children, your grandchildren, to know that love from God. As we turn to the Bible, we find Paul's great words and more, showing us what love really means, far beyond what you hear on the radio. And you can't just tell them about God's Word, because kids are going to pick up on hypocrisy in no time. You have to put it in action. Show it to them. Not to say it, but you have to show it. Next week is Our Catholic Appeals, our annual pledge to support the Diocese of Orlando, the ministries of Bishop Noonan, Catholic Charities, which helps the poor, campus ministry. You know, campus ministry has how many kids there now at campus ministry? 60,000? 60,000 kids. We have a Catholic campus ministry at UCF, and they get several hundred kids involved. Isn't that great? 60,000 students up there. We can do so much more. And we do that through our Catholic Appeal, reaching out to them. So next week is a chance to make that pledge, to put your money where your mouth is, to do things that we cannot do ourselves, but to do it collectively as a diocese. Put your money where your mouth is. And let your kids know that. Let your grandkids know that. It says, we're not going out to eat this week. That money's going to go to help others. Let them know we're not going to buy that video game because that money is going to go to help others. It's going to do God's work. Show them. Put your money where your mouth is. And tell them above all that love is a person. Love is a person. That even when you are not patient, even when you are not kind, even when you're jealous, even when you're rude, and even worst of all, you forget your thermometer, God still loves you. Deeply, deeply loves you. Is crazy about you and a passion and a fire for you. So much so he died for you on the cross through his Son Jesus Christ. Tell them that love is a person. Show them that love, that person. Show them Jesus Christ.